I was asked a question on break, which is important too. When I'm talking here about you identifying your anchors, one of them is, for example, the things you assume will never happen to you. The country will never go fascist. Oops. I'll always have drinking water. Oops. I will never go hungry. They will. I will never get cancer. Who will? Oh, they. All the things you assume from your point of view at the top of your mountain, around which you've built your universe. The kinds of things, that's this. The kinds of things where you say, I can't believe this has happened to me. Have any of you ever made that statement? That's the sound of a myth breaking down. That's the sound of one of these myths going crack, crack, crack. I just can't believe this will happen to me. Why? Because I always believed it couldn't. At the same time, we need certain anchors that ground us. There are grounding anchors that we all put down, that ground us into place, around which those anchors kind of go this way. And those anchors are things that you know about yourself that simply can't be pulled up. They can't. They are titanium. They're absolute titanium. And they are the values upon which you build who you are. Your character. Your nature. They are fundamental to you. And they are the non-negotiable you. That no matter what happens, come hell or high water, boy, these anchors aren't going anywhere. This is the part of you know you can count on. Come anything. Do you know these anchors in you? Could you name 3 of them? Absolutely. Can you put down 3 of these anchors? What are they? Huh? You are honest about everything. Try doesn't count. It's just what you absolutely know cannot be and will not be compromised. Honesty is not the same as truth. Honesty is an exercise.
I'm opinionated. That'll never change. I have an opinion.
That's a behavior.
Oh, so then how do you...
An anchor. An anchor is a character.
I care.
Character like, I have a respect for life and I will not violate that. Why didn't you know that? That's a deep, deep anchor that defines my character. What defines your character? My values, my life values. What are your life value decisions when you think, should I do this? Can I do this? Will I do this? Might I do this? I refer to certain life anchors. My unequivocal belief in God doesn't go anywhere. No matter what has ever happened to me, how many people I've lost, the death of my brother, the death of everything, that anchor has never gone, I've never said, you don't exist, Baba. Nothing has pulled that anchor. Nothing. Not grand mal seizures, not the illnesses I have faced. Nothing has pulled that. I'm not saying, who knows what lies ahead of me. I'm not going to tempt heaven. All the nightmares I've gone through. So far, so good. Let me put it that way. So far, so good. I am not tempting heaven. But so far, so good. And that is, so when you look at your anchors, what do you know you absolutely count on as an anchor that says, come hell or high water, My inner guidance is over my outer, come hell or high water. And that, so far, has been the case in all my 66 years of my life. I've gone with my inner over my outer, no matter what. So far, so good. It may change tomorrow. I will tell you the truth. I will never say that this is it for I will never make that statement to anybody. Tomorrow something may happen and I shatter and I break. Because every day is a new day. And I have no idea what temptations are around the corner. Because I follow Teresa. Lead me not into temptation. I don't know what the big surprise package out there. I don't know. But so far, so good. But I also know I have to pray for that. Nothing comes without. So when I ask you, what are the anchors you know? And you need to know. So that you know yourself so well. That you know, I can't expose myself to this. I will lose my power. I don't have the power to be around this. Are you with me here? And a lot of us don't know that. You don't know that you're exposing yourself to energetic toxin. You don't know that because you don't know yourself well enough to know that about yourself. I now know myself, and you have to learn this. You have to learn it. And you have to respect your energy well enough. And this is called the grace of reverence, which belongs right here, in your first energy field. You have to have enough reverence for yourself to actually know, I have to make a decision. I may want to go there, but I can't. I have to honor this balance that I will expose myself here to something I can't protect myself from. And when somebody I'm very political. And I'm very political because I'm a historian. And because I speak archetypes. And because I speak archetypes, and we're going to go there today, because you're going to speak archetypes. You've got to speak archetypes. And because from an archetypal point of view, you will get a completely different perspective on what happens in your life and what's happening in our world. So I take every event and I put it against the archetypal map. And I see the coordinates happening. Like what's happening in our country with the rise of the slave master archetype again. Which is one of the two archetypes that were a part of the founding 12 of the United States. And the battle, again, to enslave Americans in corporate slavery. All right. I know, for me, that for me to go too close to that fire, unescorted, is for me to short circuit. To short circuit. Okay? And I will start getting crazy. I will start getting crazy. So for me to go down to one-on-one activity, the descent into hell, is for me to go unprotected into the world of illusion. I can go, you can stick me in, a heroin meth lab and this and that, and it's nothing. I don't do drugs, I don't smoke marijuana, I don't do any of that. I just, nothing. It's nothing. It does nothing. Oxymorons or whatever those are, nothing. It does nothing. Okay? But put me in that field, and the historian in me engages in honest to God And I know. And this is the same thing I'm telling you. You have to make choice to withdraw, because I know my field will start draining. And this is what I'm saying to you. I had to learn, why do I feel like this? Because I exposed myself to something I'm not strong enough yet to maintain the high truth that this is illusion and there's something larger taking place in our evolution. I know that's the truth, but I can't yet get up, in this case, to the penthouse to hold on when I'm exposed to that playing out on the earth. Now, when we're with people we engage with one-on-one, you may look at a lot of people in your life and think, I want you to think of someone where I want you to think of, let me see how I want to say this, where somebody annoys someone you love, or someone in your life where they annoy someone great big huge, but they don't annoy you as much. Did I say that? Okay. And they just make someone you are close to absolutely crazy, but they don't bother you as much. Have you got an example like that? They just make you, and you realize every time this friend of yours is around that person, that friend just completely hemorrhages. But you don't. You don't. Why do you think you don't and they do? Say? Absolutely, it's absolutely archetypes. It's absolutely archetypal power. You don't have a power agenda with that person. You have no power agenda. Zero. You have nothing. And this is something really, really important for you to get. When you don't have a power agenda with anything, you do not hemorrhage. The second thing is, and this is something you need to sense really, really, really clearly. I want you to picture that person. Can you picture that person in your mind? Can you really get it? I want you to step into your emotional body and feel that person. See if you can feel that person, and you feel that there's nothing that person can say to you that will activate you. That will activate your emotional body. There's nothing that person can actually say to you that will animate you. And this is really important for you to get this. They could say, blech, or whatever. But there's nothing that can engage you. So there's nothing, here they are, see, here they are. There's no way that they're going to activate you. This is so important because that's what impersonal feels like. So when I use the word impersonal, it is a word in the Western language that can oftentimes doesn't go down well because it sounds like you just don't care. No. It is one of the greatest, wisest words. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means I can absolutely engage with this issue, but I won't get personal about it. It's not personal. The moment someone gets personal is the moment they're contaminated. Because then they have an agenda. Then you have an agenda. You've got to be right. You've got to prove. You've got to get martyr. You've got to get the flag up. And then you've lost. You've lost. You are now hemorrhaging. Because you've taken a position on your mountain. And you don't get it. From the moment you get personal, you've lost. Because you have no idea what's going on. From the moment you get impersonal, completely impersonal, you are now in the best position to be of the greatest help. Because now you see clearly. I have no idea what's really going on here. But I do see balance. Now you refer to the laws. Where's the imbalance in this system? Let me see clearly. I'm not going to prove a point with this person. I'm not going to use this person to prove a point to others that I'm right. Do you understand how toxic you become? Okay? The point is, and this is about your own life. You will use your own life that way. That's why people don't heal. This is why holding on to a wound. You are using your own life to prove a point. And you are hemorrhaging. Arrogance is one of the worst poisons in the world. That's why arrogant people always fall on their sword. And that's one of the biblical lessons of all times. So think about this first column, consciousness. This is where you will lose your power. It's in survival consciousness. It is rigorous. This is where we do all our work. Is in survival. This is the tribal mind. This is survival. And I want to add Buddhism here. And this is this. You know, Buddhism doesn't have the same language, but it has the same truth. Buddhism doesn't speak of hell, like the burning Dante's fifth circle, and right? Although wasn't Dante the best? The Inferno. And sometimes I fantasize about who should go there, but when it comes to you understanding what costs you your power and anybody else, and everybody else, everybody is the same. So when you want to understand what causes people to suffer, and the source of suffering, and this is something that I'm writing about in my book. We suffer differently than previous generations. We are very, very different than previous generations. We're nothing like them. Nothing. And much of the reason is how we have reconfigured health and healing. We are inward creatures, and previous generations were outward. Our new frontier is behind our eye. Inner space and outer space are the new frontiers. Whereas before, physical space was the frontier. But entering the nuclear age changed everything. We can't even begin to grapple with how much changed, but how much it changed us as creatures, how much it actually has changed the configuration of our cell tissue, of our psychic homeopathics, and how that eventually is actually changing our neurology and our physiology and our psychic transmitters, and crossing the Rubicon into nuclear age. First of all, the principles of light and darkness went nuclear. And while this is your inner consciousness. This is your 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th chakras. Yes? Yes. This are the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and this is your impersonal, cosmic, mystical consciousness, your archetypal consciousness, the mystical laws, the archetypal configurations. Before now, we would never even talk about this. You would never even know about this, except for the few people who trickled to Zurich to meet Carl Jung. Nobody would know about this. Nobody. Nobody would ever speak about the inner self. But now you speak about the inner self, which is a hybrid. It is more than the survival ego, but less, far less than your mystical soul. Your inner self is a hybrid. It is this force, this inner construct that we have developed that is like a traveling bubble. An ego that we have created that is capable of journeying into the world behind our eye, into the world that examines our unconscious and brings it conscious. The inner self, now when we talk about healing, we are not referring to, I want to feel better. No. What we're referring to is, I need to know my past life. I need to finish unfinished business. I need to restore my youth. I need to understand my nutrition. I need to be able to express myself and my truth. I need to develop boundaries for myself. I need to develop this concept of space. I need to develop a whole new way to relate. I need a new relationship compass. I've decided I need everybody to understand moi. And that part of my personal needs in relationship, in order for me to be healthy, includes, well, smoothies, organic food, gluten-free. I simply have to have all of this, or I will never be happy. I must be understood, and when I'm in a relationship, you need to understand everything I've been through so that you can abide by all the rules I now have. I must be spoken to only in this tone of voice. You cannot possibly use this, or this. I must sit here because I've been wounded, ever so wounded. I must have my support groups. I can't possibly work 5 days a week because I have to process things. This is what we've become. Oh, and another thing. We now talk like this. I would love to, but my inner self says. Oh, for Christ's sake. So you see, I would love to, but I got it on the inner. Which means we now lie this way, and we use our inner self as our honesty spokesperson. You see, your inner self is actually your new best friend. It's the part of you that knows you, that is actually excavating you, that has emerged as your kind of intuitive alter ego. Your inner self is that part that is developing a perceptual system that speaks light to matter. And that's what it is. Your inner self is the part that senses your light world, your light consciousness, your intuitive world. It is trying to speak that to your denser ego power world. It is trying to figure out how the speed of your intuition is going to work with your survival world. What if this world that I'm sensing, how does it work with this world that I'm actually living in? And that's what the inner sense is all about. I know what I sense, but what am I going to say? So, this bridge is between what you call is, I've got to speak my truth, whereas this world is the truth. I'm not interested in your truth. You got to get to the place where you speak the truth. But your truth is just complaining, or your perception, or your subjective world, and your truth changes moment to moment, and I'm like, la 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 la. It's when you can actually handle truth that you're playing in the major leagues. That's when you're playing in the major leagues. And that is the kind of soul ego, and I'll give you the difference. This journey is a journey of self-esteem. At the end of the day, we're talking about self-esteem and your capacity to manage power. What kind of power are we really talking about? It's the power of truth perception, what you're capable of experiencing, seeing, commanding with the power of you. Now, in this world, power is physical. And so you use your soul to acquire physical power. You negotiate it all the time. I'll give a percentage of myself for physical security. I will do this, do that, do this, do that. In this world, you begin to call your spirit into relationship, emotion, woundedness, healing. So we've expanded this world of healing to become a hologram. You realize I'm using my power. I'm beginning to experience the interior of me. This is also where we begin to develop what we call the self. I want to know how much power my self is. One of the necessary stages is narcissism. Except most people stay there. But there is this absolute essential stage of feeling like, what is this thing called the self? Because in the tribe, the self is selfish. And then we change it here to self-empower. And it's an essential stage. But one of the characteristics, the strong characteristic of this journey, and this is the breaking point, is that when you're in the tribe, your life revolves around tribal permission to exist, to be, to function, to participate in tribal thought forms. When you break away into the self, you are developing your relationship to yourself and to your capacity to discover how powerful you are separate and apart from group thought form. How powerful is my capacity to love as an individual? Because in the tribe, we love as a group. In this is something that the act of forgiveness is impossible by a tribe. It is the great initiatory experience that Jesus opened that gets people to the higher level. It is not possible for a tribe to forgive. It is the great mystical initiatory experience that breaks the hold that the first level of consciousness has on a person. Because the first level of consciousness, I'll break it apart in a second. The first level of consciousness is all about the hold that reason and logic have on you. And forgiveness is the most unreasonable thing you will ever do. And it gets you out of that center of the universe. And you pursue a higher order of consciousness where you discover how powerful is one word that you say. How powerful are you? In this discovery, you're piecing together how much you regard you and how much you are able to trust you. And here's the anchor. And you trust your own perceptions of what you see versus what the tribe tells you is real. Yes. What you are actually developing is the inner wiring to trust the power of your soul to tell you what you perceive is real over what the tribe does. This is collective perception. So what the tribe says, that can't happen. This is why so many people have been molested as children in the tribe says it didn't happen, and the child says, okay. And then when the child begins the journey into self, it starts having individual memory, and it goes, wait a minute. Wait a minute. And it starts having flashback. Same thing with soldiers when they come back from the war. And they begin to retrieve their individual memory from the group. And they start to have individual recall. It's called post-traumatic. And this is how that happens. And when you're on this bridge between the tribe consciousness and you scaffolding your own, you're very vulnerable. Very vulnerable. A lot of people spend their lives on this bridge. Come visit their self, but go to sleep here. They imagine the power of their self, but they live in the tribe. They come over on the bridge and they say, oh, I would love to do this. I would love to do that. I know I was born for something out there. But then they retreat into their tribe, which is the center from which they make their decisions. They must have the blanket of tribal choice wrapped around them. They can't function outside the tribe. What will they say? I have wondered for a long time about vertical healing, the way Jesus healed people. As a disclaimer, I'm not pushing Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, anything. I don't push religions. Religions are costume parties. If you haven't learned that from me by now. That said, I consider Jesus to be one of the highest cosmic teachers to ever hit this planet, along with Buddha, along with Moses, along with, I'm a fan of some really outrageous souls. Are we clear here? So I don't want to hear any nonsense about, I don't hear any Christianity. Okay. Miracles, healing miracles, are most attributed to Jesus. And that has fascinated me. Because once my work got into Teresa of Avila, then healings started to happen in my workshops. And that was astonishing to me. But genuine healings. And absolutely astonishing. So that, I turned my attention to that. And to grace. And to, I've got to follow this. I've got to follow this. And that's how I ended up in mysticism, mystical theology, but in my life, in my inner, as a mystic. And I wondered why aren't people experiencing healing at that speed, that kind of, and you know what? This is the reason right here. An instantaneous healing, or even a healing that's a little bit more rapid, is most people at this level of consciousness. I'm going to ask you something. Just ask you this. How many of you, and you be really bone raw honest with yourself. Imagine me as your spiritual director, sitting right across from you, looking you in the eye when I ask you this. Do you need people's approval for what you do and who you are? Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay. And so if something exceptional happened to you, do you need to tell people? Okay, you don't think so. You're answering too fast. I'm sorry, but you're answering too fast. You don't know yourself at all. You really, really, really have to. The only person I trust is someone who said, I have to think about that. I have to think about that. I don't know. I have to think about that. I have to think about who I talk to and how I phrase things. You're just answering too fast, which means you don't know yourself at all. At all. Okay. A miracle is an experience that happens outside time and space. Outside the speed of time and space. Which means it's outside physical reality for people. It's outside the scientific mind, it's outside the rational mind. So that means that when something like that happens, it happens to you and you alone. Which positions you and requires that you have an ego that is capable of withstanding the onslaught of people who will say, I don't believe this happened. I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. I don't believe you were ever sick. I don't have any faith. What are you talking about? I don't believe you at all. Why you? There's nothing special about you. Why didn't that happen to them? Because that's what would happen to you. That's what always happens to people who've had healings like that. Always. They become the targets of those who long for that. And unless you're capable of standing in an experience rarely given, and you know for a fact this is exactly what happened to you, And you can sustain that without hemorrhaging your power. It is better you not be given it. It is more compassionate. Because if you start hemorrhaging, you will turn bitter and angry, and resentment will come in, and you will become diseased in a whole nother way. Because you will insist others share a reality that was not given to them and will never be given to them. Ever. And you cannot expect them to understand what was only given to you. And you have to be prepared to have something that was only given to you and will never be given to them. And part of what was given to you will never be understood by 99.99.99.99% of humanity. Can you withstand that? That is a miracle. Now, so I ask you, that is the kind of self-esteem that actually this is the journey of you. This is the journey you're on. Is the journey of being able to withstand perception that other people can't see. That in fact, the saboteur archetype in you, and in all of us, is the archetype that comes up where you engage your saboteur that says, I'm getting too clear. I don't want to be this clear. I don't want to see this clearly. I don't want to heal this fast. And that's the saboteur in you. But you don't want to be this clear over others. You don't want to see that much. You don't want to know that much. You don't want to have that perceptual clarity. Because it's just too clear. Somebody, one of my workshops in Ireland, said, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Because I have reached the point where I get that in order to stay healthy, I really do have to be forgiving, and I am not ready to be forgiving because I need my anger to live with the people I live with. He said, I can't go any further.